a very good start to the race, I'm sure. So let's go through the grid. This is going to be Richard Towler. He's going to be starting on pole position. You can see he's going to have the inside line going into that left. He is the championship leader as well, has won both rounds so far. Let's see if he can make it a hat-trick. Jay Shepherd is going to be alongside, set that time on his very last lap to jump up to second. Was fifth at the time, so a brilliant qualifying from Jay Shepherd. He's third in the championship. Behind that is Julian Thomas, who took a podium at the first round. Let's see if he can get another one. And then we are going to have Piers Stockton in fourth place. We've got Riley Phillips here, who's going to be starting on the second row as well. But it's going to be Richard Towler who leads us off from pole position. Chris Dawes is going to be alongside me, of course. Chris, it's going to be a good start to the race, I'm sure. It's good. That run down to turn one isn't very far, is it? We can see from on board from Richard Towler. So hopefully we get a nice clean start to the race, and then from there we've got an hour to decide the winner.
Yeah, I mean, what's the phrase is that you can't win the race on the first corner, but you can certainly lose it. But we're in sim racing, so I'm not sure how well behaved they're going to be. Just saw a fighter jet just go over our roof there as well. Loving that.
Well, we've got 30 seconds now until the start of the race, so any second we will see the cars shoot off down towards turn number one, and we will see who gets there first. Is it going to be Richard Towler or is it going to be Jay Shepherd? They're the ones starting on the front row. We've had 2 rounds so far. Both of those have been won by Richard Towler. This is going to be the third one. Right, lights are coming on then. Any second we are going to get off, away and racing. And here we go. We have got away and racing. It's going to be Richard Towler who leads us. Not too sure exactly what's happened to Richard, but his car's gone back to the pits. But Jay Shepherd then is going to be the one to lead. Riley's coming down the inside. Oh no, 3-4 across, and Piers Stockton has actually taken the lead round the outside. So it's now Piers Stockton who leads from Jay Shepherd. Not too sure what's happened to Richard at the start, but Riley Phillips is the one in third place, and then behind that is Chris Hart as they make their way now down towards Rocket for the first time. Here's Piers Stockton leading. He's going to have to potentially defend here going into the left-hand hairpin. Jay Shepherd thinking about a move down the inside. Doesn't quite go through with it. Oh, is Riley Phillips trying to come round the outside of Jay Shepherd there, who politely shows him to the grass, and Chris Hart is now going to make his way through to third. This has been a brilliant start to the race, very chaotic. Not too sure what's happened to Richard as Jay Shepherd almost going for a spin there. So Jay Shepherd almost being helped round. Chris Hart's now going to try and move into this left-hander, and is he able to get through? Just about, but Jay Shepherd goes onto that's Chris Hart, who's gone onto the grass as well, as has Jay Shepherd. So it's now Riley Phillips who is in second place, Chris Hart in third. Chris Walton's had a good start, he's up into fourth place. Then we've got Jay Shepherd in fifth, Mark Home is in sixth, and it's Ed Bridle, Ed Worthington, Julian Thomas, and David Denye's come up to 10th place. He's had an absolutely fantastic start.
Jay Shepherd and Chris Hart both got locked together as they came down to the bottom of the hill, the left-hander towards the hairpin, and it compromised both of them, which is, you don't need to ask Riley Phillips more than once, do you?
No, not at all. So we're going to look back to Chris Walton. Let's go on board with him. In fact, I'm just trying to find out what's actually happened to Richard Towler. Well, he has got going again. Yes, go ahead,
somebody
Chris.
On the chat has actually said, so Rollercat has said, think Richard has started at the back as he won the last race, Funcup style.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well, that's a move done by Chris Walton. Done it down the straight, just round the outside. Jay Shepherd's going to try and come back down the inside at Rocket. Chris Walton's run far too deep on the brakes, and Jay Shepherd indeed does go back through. So it's going to be Jay Shepherd back into fourth place. The top five are quickly spreading out. Ed Bridle is then in sixth. Behind that is Mark Home. Then in eighth place it is Ed Worthington. Julian Thomas is in ninth, and then David Denyer is in 10th place. He's had an absolutely fantastic start. So let's have a look at Richard. He's in 11th. Ben Trossel was 12th. Chris Weatherall is in 13th place. Then behind that is David Clark in 14th. John Eiley is in 15th place. as they make their way down towards the hairpin. Let's have a look at what's going on for 5th, because Chris Walton appears to be coming under a little bit of pressure now. You see John Eiley up in 15th place. Stephen Walton is 16th place. Then behind that is Colin Kingsnorth, who's actually just been overtaken by Martin Gibson. So we'll have to keep an eye, Chris, now on Richard Towler. Just having a look at him coming through the final corner. He's got around 2 seconds to David Denyer ahead of him. So he has put himself under a little bit of pressure here, but we'll see what he can do over the next 56 minutes. It's between Jay Shepherd here and Chris Hart. It's turned into a battle very quickly between these two. Jay Shepherd catching Chris Hart as they head down to the hairpin. Is Jay Shepherd going to be close enough to make a move? These two, Chris, actually tangled with each other at the opening round at Alton Park. It was quite a spectacular crash, actually.
Well, let's not lose sight of the fact they tangled on the opening lap here, and I thought they were going to, for me, here on the hairpin, but just giving each other enough space. But yeah, they did coming down the hill on that opening lap, didn't they? Push each other off onto the grass, giving themselves both plenty of work to do.
That's
and
a good
it's enabled the front two to pull away.
Yeah, that's a good move as well, actually, that Jay was just able to put in there on Chris Hart.
Amazing to see.
Let's have a look at what happens here, because Chris Hart is right behind Jay Shepherd. They're coming up to Rocket, but no move being made there. Well, in fact, Jay Shepherd runs wide. Now the two are going to be side by side. Oh, into the right-hander contact there, and Chris Hart almost running on the grass. Jay Shepherd is going to get a bit of breathing space just for the time being. So Jay Shepherd 3rd, Chris Hart 4th, and but Richard Towler is still closing in on Julian Thomas. We'll quickly check back in with the leaders, because I did think I saw Piers Stockton defending, and indeed he is. Riley Phillips is now going to be on the outside as they make their way down towards the final corner. We can see Piers is now back ahead of us. So there we go. I did say to you, Chris, they change their minds all the time, and it seemed as if that was Riley Phillips saying, I'm going to push Piers Stockton along. Now he's changed his mind. Oh dear, on the grass there. And Riley Phillips just able to save that one.
Yeah, but that was all down to him just trying to make sure he wasn't bumping Stockton, wasn't it? So he was being honourable by not going straight into the back of him, and it just unsettled his own car mid-corner, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. There's Richard Towler. You can see him right. This is the closest he's been to Julian Thomas. Julian Thomas has set a personal best, but as has Richard, and they are catching traffic as well. So this is going to get pretty interesting. We'll stay with these two for half a lap and see if we can pick any moves. We've got one of the cars just pulling over to allow this battle through between Thomas and Towler. This is 1st and 4th in the championship, as there has been a change of lead. So let's go back. Oh, what's happened to Piers Stockton? Piers Stockton has had a half spin there. So as we were looking at a battle further down, Riley Phillips has come together with Piers Stockton. I'm going to be told, I'm sure. You can see he's put a bit of distance between himself and Thomas, and the gap to Ed Bridle is not a lot either. yeah. Ed Bridle was looking in his mirrors all of a sudden.
Yeah. And it's very clear to see that dark blue car behind him, so he's going to see it looming. I mean, we're down to sort of a 2 3/4, and was down at a 2 1/2 a moment ago, so he's definitely on the hunt now, isn't he? And I think he's got a little bit of a gap after he gets past Ed, though.
I was just going on board with Ed there, see, can we see a big rear view mirror? Richard Towler closing in, but no.
He's removed it.
No,
last lap.
No, we can't. Yeah. He's thrown it out the window. Let's go back with Jay Shepherd and see how he's getting on in this battle with Piers. It looks like Chris Hart's dropping away, doesn't it? He's 2 seconds back from these two now, but I think Chris knows that if these two start fighting, then very quickly he's going to close in.
Yeah, absolutely, and if he's too close, then he gets caught in the middle of it as well. You know, we've seen that time and time again, and we know that Jay's going to push hard, but has been caught in a couple of little mistakes. And you've had Piers that we know a couple of laps ago, so it only takes one little slip up, and it can make a world of difference. Equally, Riley Phillips at the top. He's got to be careful. He's now at 5 seconds, and being out on your own, not being pressurised, it takes a huge amount of concentration not to suddenly just make that little mistake. And we saw earlier with Scrappy just getting off onto that grass ever so slightly, heading down the hill and just sucking him towards the barriers, and that cost him probably about 10 places.
Yeah. He's down in 15th place, David Clark. This was a good battle going on here between Ed Worthington and Steve Walton, but looks like they've changed places now.
Well, and the interesting one as well, thanks Chris Brittle for the information. We did say that gap had disappeared between Richard Towler and Ed Brittle, and Chris was saying that he did have a gap until he was spun down the straight by a back marker.
Oh no.
Yeah. That'll do it then.
Yeah. I can tell you what, look, this is Jaws if I've ever seen it, isn't it? This is Richard Towler getting closer and closer. Look. Yeah. There we go. Look. Let's go on board with Towler, and he is getting a lot closer. I've got to say, it's hard to know where to put the cameras in this one.
I agree.
It is really hard to know. If you want to see anything, Chris, just let us know. It is really hard to know where to go with this because we've got that. So let's have a look then and see if Richard Towler can get this move done. As down to the hairpin we go. He's in the slipstream. He's going to pull over to the middle of the circuit, and Richard Towler on the brakes. Ed Bridle's not going to fight him too hard, and that is going to be move complete from Richard Towler. So good move that one, and Chris, yeah, I'm sure you'll agree, Ed Bridle minimising the damage there with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting as they went up the hill in towards Rocket Inn, and as you called it, that Ed just ran wide, but not very wide. There wasn't much in it, and he's still sort of pecking away, trying to come back at Richard Towler, but not possible at the moment. But yeah, it goes to show how little you need to step off line to make quite a significant impact. He was not far. He didn't go as far as the grass. He just didn't make friends with the apex either.
No.
The Viking car may have got back out again now.
Oh.
Just at the bottom of the timing screens. I haven't seen it yet, but it may well be back out. And Max Linnard, apologies if I butchered that. Hey guys, another great Funcup night. Riley and Richard looking mighty so far. Agreed.
Yes, definitely. There is Mark Home on track for you in that Viking car.
I thought so.
What's your favourite livery so far, Chris? I know that's there you go. There's his. Let us know in the comments. Actually, let's get comments going. Which is your favourite skin? But whilst those are coming in, we're going to concentrate on this battle because that's Jay Shepherd going to the outside of Pierce Stockton down at the hairpin. We go on board with him now. Oh no, he's just run a little bit wide, and a good save that in the end, I have to say there, Chris, because that nearly looked as if Jay was going to go spearing back across the track.
That looked, as he even got to the hairpin, he wasn't able to turn, was he? He went so hot into that hairpin, he looked like a dog trying to change direction on a kitchen floor.
There we go. And even at the last corner, he did look, he got a bit tail happy out of there as well, if I'm going to follow on from your reference.
Sorry.
Yes, definitely. And I tell you what, we've got Ed Worthington in a good battle as well. Let's have a quick look at this. This is him battling with David Denyer, who made that brilliant start up to the top 10. Ed Worthington trying to get into the top 10 now. He's 8th in the championship, is Ed at the moment. Scored 46 points at both rounds. This looks like a lunge down the inside. It is. Oh, David Denyer didn't see him coming. Turned in. There was a bit of contact, and Ed Worthington goes past. So I'd say that was a case of David Denyer being caught out there, Chris. I can see Ed Worthington is behind Ben Trossel, and is not too far behind him either. And I think we're about to see a move being made up to the last corner. Ed Worthington just ahead in terms of where they are on track at the moment, and that is going to be Ed Worthington going through. That's not them going up to the last corner. Looks similar, but Ed Worthington, as they went through the third corner, I think that was, is now through. So he's on a bit of a charge here, Chris, isn't he? He's now up into 9th place, having just gone past Ben Trossel there.
Yeah, I think I might be completely wrong, and I'm not one to stir her out.
You know what, I wouldn't be surprised, because he's such a nice guy. If I was saying his name wrong, he probably just wouldn't tell me.
Yeah, just go with it. Yeah, absolutely. Karting 987, come on, Piers, you're not driving karts now. That's the angle there, but these two, the back markers just split them out a little bit there. That was the recovering car. I think that was Chris Wetherall, wasn't it? Recovering.
Yes, it was, yeah. Chris Wetherall having very bravely having a go at Jay Shepherd, who's in a fight for second. But why not? If you're quicker, then go past. So, Chris Wetherall there. I'm sure that would have frustrated Jay a little bit, but he's entitled to go for his move. Or if that was a small mistake. But this is going to be it. This is going to be Chris Hart versus Richard Towler for 4th place. And let's not forget, Richard has won both races so far, hence he leads the championship. Chris Hart 5th in the championship, so he could do with beating Richard Towler here. And I tell you what, thinking back to round 2 now, this was the situation we had, but it was Richard Towler catching Riley Phillips for the lead, and it was about 20 minutes to go, and we all thought, that's it, Richard Towler's going to go through and he's going to win the race, but it ended up being a battle all the way to the flag.
I think that we had Chris Rose in a very big off on the side of the track there.
Yeah.
Gone over the barrier.
Not for the first time, sadly.
Right.
Chris Rose, I did see him parked in the barrier not long ago, so he's had a couple of moments, but here we go, this is it. Chris Hart now having to defend from Richard Towler as they come down towards the hairpin. We'll jump on board with Richard Towler quickly. We should see Chris Hart to our inside, and there he is. And Chris Hart, oh no, they've had contact, and Chris Hart taking a half spin there. Richard Towler slows down to let him back through, but there we go. That was a sign, Chris, as you probably see now, that Chris is good at defending. He cut off any chance of Richard getting a switch back there, and it's kind of forced Richard to go nowhere else but straight into the back of him.
It did, as we say, parked it on the apex and just made sure that he couldn't do anything about that then. And fair play to Richard Towler, though. The photographer knew what to do there. He just backed straight off. He didn't even sneak past him at any point, did he?
Yeah.
And still, this battle rages no matter what happened back there at the final hairpin.
And the gap's still coming down between Riley and Piers. It's now 4.3 seconds, so it's come down by another half second. So Piers is doing a really good job here. He's putting in some absolutely fantastic times. It's going to be a big ask for him to close that gap down. He'd need a big mistake, but back to this battle because Towler's thrown one down the inside of Chris Hart and got through. That was absolutely perfect driving that from Towler. He just had enough room on the inside there, thought about that one very late, and it caught Chris Hart out, and Richard Towler is now through. So, but Chris Hart there trying to come, and there's contact. Chris Hart tried to come down the inside of Towler, a very optimistic move, and Chris Hart has now spun round. So Chris Hart just about gets going again. Chris, what did you make of that one?
Yeah, I mean, especially where we've got the benefit really of a very slight delay there.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to the first move, is that Richard Towler, when he did make the move heading up the hill in towards Rocket Inn, it wasn't that late a move actually, where I got to analyse it, a little bit delayed, is that he kind of saw that there was enough gap there. He just got the drive all the way up the hill, and in fairness to Chris Hart, he knew it was too late and he didn't do anything, stayed to the outside, hoping that he'd have the inside for Rocket out. Didn't work, but that last one, I've got to be honest and say it was tempting enough. There was enough of a gap for him to sort of stick his nose up the inside, but it disappeared quickly. And as Phillips Motorsport said, fantastic drifting from Richard Towler to actually keep his on the straight and narrow and pull away. And he doesn't need to do anything this time because that was nothing to do with him.
Yeah, well, it's a shame that Chris Hart, he had to go for it. I think he knew there, Chris, that Richard was just going to pull away with the pace that he'd had to close him down.
Yeah.
And I think he thought, this is my only chance, got to go for it. And he's got such a big gap behind. At least he can say he had a go at that one. So I'd say Chris Hart will get in the Twitch comments the answer to that question. I wonder if it's sort of pro kart racing. That would be my guess, or maybe even now Club 100, something like that. So. Definitely doing well to jump up to Funcup. Likewise, that's where Riley came from, straight from Junior Max karting, Rotax karting, straight into Funcup, and hasn't done very badly since he moved up there. Actually commentated on Riley winning championships at Wilton Mill, back-to-backed it as well, if my memory's correct, across 2 different classes, which I done back in the day. So followed in my shoes, and they brought a tear to my eye.
There we go. British Pro Kart Endurance is the answer.
Yes, BPEC, as it's betterly known as. Good stuff. I haven't commentated on that one before, but I've heard it's a very good series, definitely. Always massive grids there. So this.
So, Max Leonard saying, Jay closing the gap on Piers, question mark. Yes, is the answer. Look at that. You can see them both there in shot. And
oh, no. Sorry, Chris, but we've got Chris Hart spinning round on screen.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
I missed that. Oh, yeah.
Do you see it now?
I do now, yes.
I just saw a position change. And I thought, what's going on here? But now this is Julian Thomas. We should actually start focusing because Julian Thomas is now right with Chris Hart. So we got a battle on for 6th and now a battle on for 2nd, or almost a battle for 2nd as well.
Wow, so yeah, that lost him. So Ed Bridle managed to get past up into 5th place. Julian Thomas now fighting away. Julian, I've commentated on quite a few times, predominantly in some of the historics. Just some amazing pieces of kit that he gets to drive. I think the Cos is probably my favourite that he does. That's a monster, isn't it? But yeah, he's out there with his company emblazoned all over it. V-Box was an awesome piece of kit.
Yeah.
And not just for racing, so many different uses it's got as well. And he is now desperately trying to find a way to get past the Domino's car of Chris Hart.
Get around a back marker, but as Andrew is saying, the guys at V-Box did have a part to play in this car being made and making it as accurate as it is. So great work by them. Along with Riley Phillips to get this car together for this championship. But here we go with Julian Thomas trying to get past Chris Hart. Chris Hart's going to have to defend, coming up towards Rocket. Oh, and does now. Oh, there we go. That's contact, and there goes Chris Hart. Well, that's Julian Thomas just misjudging that. I think he's going to slow down. Is he, and having to get out of the way of Chris Hart. But what did you make of that one, Chris? It just looked like he just misjudged how close he was to Chris Hart potentially.
I mean, it's difficult because it was coming up towards us, wasn't it, to really gauge that one. But it looked to me, and in fact, there we go, Julian Thomas waiting, letting Chris Hart through. Chris nearly tapping him as he went past.
I thought that was going to be. You have a bit of it as well, mate.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a side swipe, didn't it? There, but he's got through. I mean, it was heading up through the hill, and it looked ever so simple for me. Is it looked like Julian Thomas had a cracking run up through there. I'm not sure what would have unsettled Chris Hart before that stage, because Julian carried all that speed through and suddenly realised the car in front of him wasn't. A bit difficult, full speed, to then miss that, and he just made a little bit of a gentle kiss to the corner, and it unsettled him enough to throw him sideways in a very, very fast part of the circuit.
This gap is hovering just under 2 seconds, isn't it, between Piers and Jay Shepherd, Chris? It's anytime Jay Shepherd seems to close Piers down, Piers seems to respond, and I think it's going to take maybe a back marker or a mistake now for this battle to actually kick off.
It will indeed. It's building again in multiple places, isn't it, throughout?
Yeah, likewise.
Apart from at the front, it does look like Riley's now got a stranglehold on the lead, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's going to be a long-awaited victory, because he's fought for the lead every single race we have done across both the European Series and the UK Series, and Riley Phillips wasn't quite able to take the win at round 1 nor round 2. And with Richard Towler in 4th place, I say down in 4th place given his extremely high standards he's now set, or the ones I've set him after winning rounds 1 and 2. With Riley winning, it's going to be extremely close in the championship going into the next round. But you've got to give it to Richard Towler, Chris, haven't you? The recovery has been quite remarkable from him.
It has. I mean, not just about sort of banzai through the field. I've been really impressed with the patience that he's shown to work his way through. I'm sure he's going to be relatively frustrated, because it stands at the moment with 4.5 minutes to go. He's probably looking like he may well miss out on that Andrew Phillips predicted podium as it stands at the moment, because he's got about 2.5 seconds to make up, and it's over that Jay Shepherd car ahead of him. So it's a big that's a bronze car again, isn't it, Martin Gibson?
Yes, it is, and we've got Jay Shepherd closing in on a back marker, and he's being caught by Richard Towler with the gap now only a second, Chris.
And that's Trussell, I think, isn't it? Trussell that's just moved out of the way.
Yes, and let's go on. There you can see, so this is Richard Towler on board with. That's Ben Trussell ahead, as you said, who gets out of the way. And that's Jay Shepherd. That's what 1.2 seconds looks like. It's not a huge distance for Richard Dowler to close. There may be less than 2 minutes to go now, but this battle for the last spot on the podium is on, and if Piers Stockton makes a mistake up the road, then it could be a three-way battle for second place.
It could be, couldn't it? I mean, I don't know. I think Piers Stockton, that turquoisey car up ahead, has done enough as it stands at the moment. It's all about this third and fourth place fight. Jay Shepherd, he's got the moral high ground at the moment, and we're down to 1 minute and 20 left to go. So they're on their penultimate lap as it stands at the moment. Are they? No, it's 1:40, wasn't it? So they're going to have 2 more laps. No, sorry, I am right. Penultimate lap. Sorry, trust myself the first time.
Yes, that's it. I've always told you this.
Yeah. It's going to be, they're going to, as Max Leonard said, battle for P3 in the last lap. Absolutely. Yeah. We knew there was going to be something somewhere. This is it. Are we going to get Richard Towler on the podium, as predicted by Andrew Phillips as well?
And this is also going on as well. We'll keep one eye on this, because this is Julian Thomas closing in once again on Chris Hart, but the main focus is Richard Towler versus Jay Shepherd, and Jay Shepherd is going to be feeling a little bit nervous, I'm sure, when he looks behind and sees Richard Towler closing in, because that is the one person that you do not want closing you in on the last lap.
Or, I mean, that said, I'm sure there's people that you'd be more worried about, because I've just had the impression that Richard, he's sort of battled nicely so far. Famous last words, I'm sure. But
yeah. Last corner, Jay Shepherd upside down.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't get it more wrong. But yeah, through the very, very fast church there, I mean, they barely lift, and he's really pushed that hard there. Goodness me, he was up around the 150k mark all the way through there, and it just pushed him out wide towards the grass. But I don't think he lost an awful lot of time there. Closing in here, but not enough. It's going to be down to that final hairpins. Is going to be his last chance to do something about it.
Yeah, Riley Phillips is on his last lap now. It does say at the top of our screen that the leader is on the final lap. Well, Riley Phillips was in a very close battle with Piers Stockton until Piers Stockton hit the curb and got himself into a half spin. Since then, Riley Phillips has been able to get away. And since he got that gap, he's built on it. He's built it up to 8 seconds, and having finished second at rounds 1 and 2, Riley Phillips is going to get his first win of the season here at Anglesey. Through the final corner he comes, and that is going to be the win for Riley Phillips. He takes round 3 victory here at Anglesey. Behind second will go to Piers Stockton, another podium for him, 2 on the bounce. Third will be Jay Shepherd. I believe that is his first podium of the season, and Richard Towler, having started last place on purpose as he is the leader in the championship, brings himself up to 4th and may just still lead the championship at the end. So that's your top 4. Ed Bridle, that could be a personal best result for him as well, that he's going to finish in 5th. Chris Hart has been in the wars at times in this race, but you can see he is going to wrap up 6th place with Julian Thomas behind him. Chris Walton will be in 8th place. He's only going to have 1 more corner to go. Ed Worthington will finish in 9th place, and then rounding out the top 10 will be Ben Trossel. It's been a pretty good race, isn't it? We've got Stephen Walton there in 11th place. David Denyer had a pretty good run as well. He finished in 12th place. Finishing in 13th place was David Clark. Then it's Martin Gibson. Chris Wetherall was 15th. Chris Rose 16th. We had problems for a couple of the cars, John Eiley being one of them. Chris Rose finished down in 16th place, but Mark Home also had problems and he finished in 17th. That is it, Chris. What have you made of it? It's been a brilliant race, isn't it?
Absolutely fantastic, really, really incredibly entertaining. Loved every second of it, and thank you so much for the opportunity to you all. I've loved it. Somehow now I've got to jump over to do another race on the same circuit, ironically, with Caterham. So it's out the